Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now? We're in the international break of doom again, the dead zone, as I like to call it. But we've got some good news tonight. Arne Engels is in the starting 11 for Belgium. Liam Scales taking on Finland tonight as well, starting for Ireland again with that number 5 jersey on his back. We're here tonight for a wee bit of Sorare CSC, a little bit of Celtic Supporters Club action live here tonight on the Celts Are Here channel. I am Quinny, of course, and I'm joined as always by McBride Ace. McBride, good to see you, mate. Hail, hail.
Good evening. Hail, hail. That's good news. Engels and Scales starting as well. That's pretty positive all round as well. Unless we want them to get a rest, which, there's a lot of games coming up. But there we go. Nice to see Engels getting in the Belgium squad. And welcome, everyone. Thanks for watching along again.
Yeah. Good to be back as ever. And I'm just waiting to see if I can get the team up on screen because it's quite unexpected. We know Engels has been in the squad a couple of times now. He has been capped, but a start against Italy as well. No small opponent, no kind of throwaway match as it is, Definitely caught me by surprise.
I was a wee bit surprised as well, but I suppose there's maybe one or two injuries and things for Belgium too, but let's not take anything away from it. I mean, I remember when he signed actually, and he was in some Belgium squad, and that's good. Yeah, he's in the under 21 squad. No, it's the full squad. The full team, not the diet team. So yeah, that's really good. Great experience for him again. Hopefully, that'll bring him on a bit as well.
That's a great midfield he's up against tonight. Barella, Tonali, Ravella, and Fratesi. That's like a proper Serie A bunch of battlers, isn't it? I know Tonali obviously plays in the Prem nowadays, but type and profile, that'll be a good one. If anyone's watching it, you'll definitely see what he's made of in this match. No two ways about it.
Yeah, he's looked quite comfortable at Champions League level. I know people criticise performance and what he's doing and all that type of stuff, but I think one of the things that's been quite impressive is how he's handled things like Celtic Rangers games, Aberdeen semi-final, the Leipzig game and everything as well, because a young guy and, just been thrown into that can be a sort of boom or bust moment as well. So it shows a lot of faith in him. And obviously Belgium have got other good young guys there as well, guys like the Bast, who's, he's not been at Sporting that long or whatever. And, he's obviously cementing himself as a centre-back and everything there as well. And Openda, who played against us for Leipzig as well, played in front of him. So pretty interesting.
Yeah, I seen after the Leipzig match, apparently the two of them specifically are like buddies, they're pals. So maybe there's a little bit of synergy. Maybe that's what's getting him into the team a little bit, is he's got that little bit of link-up play with Openda maybe. So maybe a wee bit of preview of what's to come. Him and Kuhn have got a bit of a link-up on the go already, I think.
Yeah. Good players can play with other good players. It must be that Openda played for Bruges as well, didn't he? So I certainly went through the kind of academy and stuff there. So interesting, really interesting, and playing obviously in maybe a more reserved sort of deeper role as well. I don't think in that formation he'll be the one that's getting forward as much, but we've seen that game where he sort of sat in there. He's got a good range of passing and everything too. So that's going to be pretty interesting. I don't know if it's on TV or anything. That's one of the, maybe it's a good or a bad thing, over the Nations League. Not all the games are on and all that sort of stuff, but maybe try and catch a bit of it if possible as well.
Well, a little side note on that. The Scotland games are on the Scotland YouTube channel, by the way, for free. So maybe there's a wee bit of funky action like that on the go. Yep. I make you dead right for this. And I also think that this formation is a little bit off. We also know Maxime de Kuyper is a very attacking left back, but he is a left back, and Castagna is the same on the right-hand side. The other three guys in defence are mainly centre-backs. So I think Engels is going to be in the middle here of like a 3-4-3 or something, so it's not going to be quite the 4-2-3-1. Maybe, what do I know? I've not watched Belgium, but just knowing the players.
Sort of 5 at the back or 3-5 sort of 2 type formation, that type of thing. Definitely. You'd imagine the Kuiper's probably going to play up on the left, and Thiat, Fayez and the Bast will probably be like the back 3, and that'll let Castagna get forward on the other side as well. And then I guess Openda's probably going to play a bit more out on that side, maybe, where the Kuipers are. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to see how that all sort of shakes out, because obviously Trossard and Openda and Lukaku are very much all attacking players, aren't they? So, well, Lukaku's a striker, so he'll be the focal point up there, and Onana's pretty sort of box to box and everything. So,
yeah, and Arne Engels is kind of the talk of the town at the moment, isn't he? Since he's had pretty big shoes to fill, and I hate saying his names. I think it's a wee bit. I just feel I know I get annoyed at myself whenever I say Matt O'Reilly, right? But Matt O'Reilly has some big shoes to fill. He has a record lining, and it's a good point in the season to kind of see how he's doing. I think the kind of statistics here, that's probably a good summary, I suppose, isn't it? There's some peaks there, definitely got that top potential, but it's not been consistently that great.
He's probably not as rounded a player. I mean, I don't think we should apologise about talking about Matt and things. You know, he obviously scored the winner against Man City recently, so he's come back into focus again as well. But I think the impressive thing there about the peaks is, you see the peaks like the Bratislava match. He was excellent against Aberdeen in the Cup, which doesn't show here because it's not covered on Sorare. He's been able to handle the big matches or whatever, or come into the big matches quite important. Good performance against Leipzig, I think, as well. So yeah, he's probably maybe striving for a bit of consistency there in terms of like putting in those high level performances all the time. But that can come. I mean, he's just turned 21 as well, right? So he is a bit younger than some of the other profile players we've got. If you look at maybe Nicholas Kuhn, who's been absolutely brilliant, he's I think 3 years older than him. So as a profiler player, it's quite exciting as well to think that he can improve, and I think he will, and he's got room for improvement. So
yeah, and Nicholas Kuhn is as much as Engels is as well. He's very much talk of the town. If we just look at the last 6 months, that should basically be the season. But yeah, you can see the difference there. There's more like Kuhn's been bringing it. Kuhn's been winning his matches. He's been. I said it in my Kilmarnock breakdown after the game, but that goal that he scores, that's one of those moments that we were crying out for a lot before he left. But from Jota, games where it's tight and you need a guy to just grab the game by the scruff of the neck and just go, give me the ball. I'll do it. I mean, I'll make it happen. Someone that's got that top end ability that we've seen from Celtic players down the years time and again, and no Celtic team is complete without a guy like that. And Kuhn is he's that guy, isn't he? He's him.
I think he's it's a big claim, but he's looking a bit like Mo Salah at the moment. Like when you watch Salah playing, he's always got loads of energy. He's always running at people, and what he's brought consistency, and he's getting the goals and everything as well. Cuts in his left foot. So that's a very short period of time, and obviously when Kuhn came second half of last season, he wasn't really performing. So to be even discussed in the frame with guys like that who are top stars, and you've got to do that over a season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons on the top stages and everything as well. But that's who he reminds me of at the moment. Like, when he got that ball and he was running down the wing, as the song goes, and he cut inside, you think he's going to score, So there's a kind of that air of like inevitability of like he's going to do something here, and he just looks full of confidence, and he's playing with that sort of style that you mentioned, where it's not like, what's the opposite? Luis Palma, he's running at guys, but there's an effectiveness to it, and against Leipzig, the first half in particular, I know he scored the 2 goals. One of them obviously was a bit of tap in, but he looked the best player on the pitch by a country mile in that. And when you see somebody like that playing against a high level opposition and they still look a standout, that's even more impressive than just doing it in the sort of normal games, but the league games, the week in, week out stuff. So.
Yeah, and what it is about Kuhn as well, like, it gives you that kind of those Salah vibes, I guess. And I said, like, I echoed a kind of funny tweet that I seen about likening him to Messi, but it's his close control at high speed. Like he's a guy that when he's running at pace, like you're talking about also the the kind of cutting in stuff and all that, which he's definitely got. It's definitely a strong part of his game, but every time you watch him, like, you don't know what he's going to do. He can go on the outside as well and just take the line and try and swing one in. He doesn't mind coming in, shooting or crossing, floating them as well. So, and when you've got a guy that can do that at high speed, when you're putting people on the back foot and asking them big questions, like, as long as you've got a good team to play in, like he does, it should come together, and it feels like it's coming together for us, which has been brilliant. And I do think like getting that kind of player back in has been a huge part of like the progression that we've seen this year, because last year, as much as we did well and a lot of players played okay and all the rest of it, we were very reliant on Big Matt and one or two others at times throughout the season to like win matches, to like grab the game by the scruff of the neck in a different way, perhaps, for some of those other guys that were on good form last year. Maybe one or two no longer here. So yeah. So again, as well, even before Turnbull left, Turnbull was scoring goals, from the bench and stuff. Like, he probably finished with 5 last year or something. He did, like, he came off the bench, So anyway, I digress. I'm not talking about Turnbull or anything, but having a guy like that in the team's made a big difference for sure. I think Engels, who we were talking about in the first place, but has been like the one that most eyes have been on. Looking at the kind of, we've just had the fixtures and the scores and all that up for the last couple of games. Is it that he's not exceeded expectations, and that's maybe the feeling people have, because we're used to having some of these guys really like Kuhn. Like Kuhn's definitely exceeding expectations at the moment. I think Trusty's starting to do that as well. Alistair Johnson, I don't know if he's quite doing that, but he's definitely stepped up. So is it maybe just a bit of a case of like the floor that the team has lifted, and maybe he's still just a bit cold or still a bit raw? Do you think?
I think the thing with Engels is it's a price tag thing as well. It's when you bring in the price tag, or you spend that money, you bring in somebody at that price tag, and then he's billed as a replacement for O'Reilly, then automatically people are going to compare him to what Matt O'Reilly did, which was obviously really exceptional in his last season as well. And some of the sort of stats he put up in terms of goals and assists and everything really impressive. But one thing I was sort of talking about earlier was how much Matt O'Reilly really improved in that sort of season of coaching under Brendan Rodgers as well. So like what you've got to sort of look at now is, what's the sort of development that comes from here? Because if Engels is got parts of his game where he's maybe a wee bit rough around the edges, or he's still learning, then that can become the exciting bit. Because another like fun question to ask would be like, who was the better player at 21, Matt O'Reilly or Engels? And obviously people develop at different rates, and you've got different ceilings and all that type of stuff. But when Matt O'Reilly came, like, was he doing any better than that? At one point, Aaron Moy was keeping him out of the team and everything as well, So it's all pretty interesting stuff. And as I said, I think there's some hidden stuff there from the stats, and that like what's been really impressive is how he conducts himself, like, how he's actually been able to step up in those games, the Aberdeen semi-final, which was a huge game, big atmosphere. How he's been really good against Bratislava, how he's been really good against Leipzig, been able to deliver on the big nights, because you get players who are pretty good and they don't perform on the big stage and everything as well. And a lot of those things are signs of a real sort of top level player that don't just appear in the stats. And I seen one or two people as well mentioning about teams and who've been the best team, and some people favouring Paulo Bernardo, etc. as well, which understand they're different types of players, etc., and people have different opinions on players. But I don't agree with that. But there's certain games maybe that Paulo Bernardo suits, and he's obviously got a bit more experience in his Celtic career behind him than Engels has at this stage as well. But I mean, Engels if the Belgian coach thinks he's good enough to start against Italy, then that's the sign of confidence there.
Well, San Frecce Celtic had it up here a second ago. 3 goals and 6 assists. Like, see, bird's eye view on that.
Very good.
That's a healthy return. Like, really, expectations, and maybe that's what I was kind of maybe stumbling on a minute ago. Is like, it's like just maybe expectations are so high that something like this. But that's a good thing, I suppose, because like you say, if he does start to match those expectations, the numbers will be frightening very quickly. And if he is getting that nod, that kind of acknowledgement, as it were, from Dominic Tedesco, who's a manager I really rate, by the way. He was a very fun manager to watch at Spartak Moscow for a few years with Jordan Larsson, which was quality. And he did all right at Leipzig before they bagged him. And he's been kind of crap for Belgium, to be honest with you. But I know from watching this guy's team, like the whole team put a shift in, like they are big workers in the midfield, are guys that like to, he wants them playing forward balls quickly. And that's the one thing about Engels. I think he's got 2 sides to this game pretty well. Like you mentioned, Bernardo. I don't think Bernardo's got that forward pass that Engels has. Even if take away the silky stuff, where he's flicking it around the corner, first touch, outside of the boot stuff. Even just when it does break out of space, to be able to just play a ball down the channel for somebody, namely Kuhn, most of the time. So again, like I think this will be a great game for him tonight as well. And like you say, that's a great sign of encouragement that Big Tedesco, Belgium, they're starting him. They think he can do a number on the Italians tonight.
Yeah, Courtois is clearly not a fan of him because he's refusing to play for Belgium. But yeah, I mean they're quite a top level sort of international team. They're always like hovering about in terms of the top of the actual national team rankings and things. You know, never really went on and won a big tournament or whatever, but they always seem to be there or thereabouts in qualifying and things like that. So, and he's keeping some good players out the team as well, guys like you know, Vermeeren and, you know, Lokonga, etc., who are all like performing at good levels and things as well. Vermeeren at Leipzig. So yeah, pretty interesting. So you get the Lennon Miller rumours up on the screen as well. So
yeah,
it's a topic at the moment.
When does Brendan confirm that he's subscribed to the channel? That's what I want to know, because in the last international break, I did a squad review, and at the end of it, I was basically saying it doesn't matter what happens, we should be signing Lennon Miller, like, because it's just a guy that will fit into the squad. Problem is, but it's quite crowded, you know, for that position. You know, Engels being kind of public, or not public, you know, but like target number one for that position, he would come in for, unless someone else was to leave. Obviously, we'd expect it to be Engels. And again, that's probably not what we're here to talk about tonight in terms of any outgoings or anything. It's more just, you know, we've played a full match day now. We've played everyone in the league. We've played 4 games in the Champions League to great aplomb overall, by the way. And at this point, there's still so many questions across the team. And getting ready for tonight, I sent you just a few points just so we could try and keep on some sort of run, you know, for everyone that's catching this live. Fist bumps to everyone on arrival, of course, and anyone that's catching this after we've been live, please do hit the like button on the show at any point if you do have a good time and all that good stuff. Hit subscribe for more content like this and all that good stuff. I had the B team video go out the other day, which seems to be very well received again. So we've done 2 of them and they've been great. So we'll see if we can maybe get a few more done, which is fantastic. And again, thanks for all the kind words and messages. But the first one I sent to you, McBride, kind of leads us on. We'll come away from, we've mentioned a wee bit of Kuhn before we get into Miller and Engels and all that kind of stuff. The biggest thing I'm looking at the team now and really being in the wilderness, as it were, is the defence, is the back 4, you know, like Alistair Johnson's nailed. And then Carter Vickers, like, again, he's probably a discussion in himself at this point. But basically the rest of the defence is a big question mark on what is the preferred, how much can you get out of each of these guys, and a few other bits and pieces. How are you feeling with the back 4 at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a real interesting point. Obviously the goalkeepers, like, you know, Casper's been superb, so I think you can't really leave him out of the back line because his distribution and his experience, and he's done a bit of shot stopping. I wouldn't say that's his best quality, but he's stood up in big moments, and I think we've had 9 clean sheets in 11 games or something in the league, which is, like, you know, maybe a bit fortunate against Kilmarnock to get one, but it's still a really good start. It's a good habit to be in. Alistair Johnson seems to be improving, adding stuff going forward to his game, so we know he can defend, we know he put the foot in, we know he's, you know, an international player and all that, but he's adding goals and he's adding in assists and all that sort of stuff. Carter Vickers, I mean, I think he could have played against Kilmarnock if we had to play him against Kilmarnock. I think that was a deliberate thing. Pitch, the amount of games coming up, they wouldn't have wanted him in contention for the USA squad, all that type of stuff, you know, just to get a break into him before this big run of important games. The impressive thing with Trusty is that he's sort of filled in for Vickers and he's played on the wrong side, and he's also looked quite accomplished. Now, obviously, again, top level against like your Dortmunds and things, you're going to get found out if you're going to run that sort of 2 left backs there or whatever. But he's really grown into the sort of role. And I've seen an interview with him, you know, got the kick and he was hurting and he was like, you know, I'm not coming off. Like, I've basically been dreaming of these nights at a big a club, big stadium and everything, and, you know, all right, it hurt a bit, but I am not coming off. And that's that type of attitude or whatever is obviously, you know, sort of quite refreshing. But the best compliment I can give him is he looks like a bit like a left-footed CCV. Like, that's, you know, that's been what we've been after. And in my opinion, I think that, you know, if you're going to like say who are the best 2 to start, it would be Trusty and Carter Vickers. And it's harsh on Scales because he's done pretty well, but Trusty just looks as if he's got marginally more pace and maybe slightly better on the ball as well. It's early days, but, you know, I think he's been superb. What do you think of that? We'll go into the left back position. I know you're a Greg Taylor fan and all that sort of stuff, but what do you think?
I think Trustees went above and beyond expectations for me. I thought similar to Adam Ida that we'd maybe just been caught in a bad place in the market on the spend, and that is what it is. It's not my money. There's only so much you can care about it really, as long as it's not at the detriment of other transfers. Is just my main concern really. And I was kind of thinking maybe this is a player that could work out to be halfway good. But the main thing I was always kind of crying out for, if you are going to bring in our centre back, or you kind of needed to bring in our centre back in, I suppose, is it someone that would be definitely someone that could like break into the starting 11, like be notably an upgrade on any one of them. Probably Scales, of course, just because that's just the way the team's been built these days. And yeah, like I think he's really went above and beyond, like because it's some of these bigger matches is where he stood up, and for me, that's what you're spending money on. We're not spending money on guys that can show up against Ross County and Kilmarnock and Motherwell and who Aberdeen. Fair enough, Aberdeen are maybe giving us a wee bit of a fight this year. Hearts, them, St Mirren. He's played well against all the teams you would expect him to play well against. You know what I mean? But that's not it's not what you're paying £6 million for a centre back for, or whatever it was. It's for those bigger games. And Dortmund is a baptism of fire. I think we can forgive him that, to be honest with you. But he's really stepped up and he's really showed that he can make that jump. And it's something that we've been questioning about Taylor. I don't think we've really questioned it. I've not really questioned it about Scales because he's won a few Champions League Man of the Matches. I forget how many, 2 or 3 or something at this point. I've been quite confident to play him in most of these games anyway. But you're right, he does lack a yard on Trusty. And I just think the balance with Trusty and Vickers, like they just look like a partnership, very quickly. It's just seemed there's a nice balance between the two of them. And not that Vickers doesn't have that with Scales, or Trusty and Scales didn't look great together, but Trusty and Vickers just looks like a partnership, just looks like a centre-back partnership. I can't say it any other way.
Yeah. I think I always come back to what Brendan said as well after that game at Hampden, and it's about the sort of tactical side of things as well. So, what stuck out in the Leipzig game was, they were taking the goal kicks, I wasn't even order goal kicks. I don't know what's up with me. And Hatate was up standing in the edge of the box with Furuhashi, and then the wingers were like pinning them in, and then the whole team was pushed up. Now the problem is, if Liam Scales, maybe his biggest Achilles heel is sometimes he kind of turns like a cross-channel ferry, right? So obviously there's ones up to the back post last season where it was that side that would seem to get caught out. And obviously when he's on the turn or he's running back, that doesn't suit him, which is fair enough. So if you've got Trust there and you've got Carter Vickers there, the good thing is they do have a good element of recovery pace. And what really stood out, for example, when we played away against Atalanta, was obviously they battered us quite a lot, but when the ball went up to them, and even when like Maeda and Nicholas Kuhn get a run at them, all their defenders are all athletic. Even the centre halves, they're all like pretty athletic, and that's maybe where Celtic were lacking a wee bit there. And again, from Greg Taylor's point of view, Greg Taylor is quite capable of playing the infield position. He's capable of getting forward. He got the assist against Leipzig. He does loads of good stuff, but if you're going to play in a certain way, he maybe just doesn't suit that certain way when you lose the ball. So it works when you keep the ball, but when you lose the ball and there's a transition and teams running at you or whatever, then that's where it gets more difficult. So yeah, I mean, it's quite harsh on guys like Scales, but a game at home when you're playing against, maybe a St Mirren who's coming, put 10 men behind the ball and they're camping in and they're playing for a draw or to frustrate, is not the same as a high-level European game when you've got attacks and counter-attacks and all these different sort of strategies and different game states and everything coming into play. It's just totally different as a game. So Trusty obviously being sort of pretty comfortable on the ball. He looks comfortable on the ball when it seems as if he was quite happy to sort of step forward and play those passes up to Maeda or whatever, or he was doing pretty well from that point of view. His accuracy was pretty good and he looks pretty solid as well. So he's sort of grabbing his chance, and I think that realistically, whether we say it's X or Y just now, so many games coming up, you're going to see a mix of X, Y and Z over all these games, because from December to January the amount of games we play is completely bonkers, but it's going to be fun.
Yeah, Because I think another factor that comes into the centre back part of it as well is Carter Vickers. Because I remember saying on the channel, like after he got that 5-year contract, where we're giving them out one summer. I think it was when Brendan first came back, really, wasn't it? Just sign up the players he wanted. I said at the time, like it was a big signal to me that like the injury situation he's got isn't that great. Like that he's sticking in his prime of his career with us with that contract. And I think that's just all parties been on the side of we need to manage him. Like we've seen already this year, we have lost him for periods this year already. And realistically, for how amazing he is and all the qualities he does bring, if we're going to be married to that, we need to have 3 centre backs that are equally as good. We can't have something that's a bit of a drop down. And as much as Trusty can play those passes, like you say, Scales has been hit and miss with them. Like he does try and hit Kyogo sometimes. He doesn't mind maybe trying to get it down the channel once or twice either. Trusty's definitely got a wee bit more about them than that. But Carter Vickers doesn't even attempt that stuff. So you need one of them to do it, Yeah. And Trusty having that, like Trusty feels like the one that will always be picked now,
Yeah, it looks as if he was obviously covering for Carter Vickers there as well, because Vickers was sitting out, and you've got to be careful, because if you sort of run him into the ground, then you can start these other issues appear as well. But there could also be a scenario where maybe Carter Vickers just had a bad spell with injuries and things. Looks as if, fingers crossed, touch wood, whatever. He's sort of the thing he had with his knees maybe eased a bit, like that seems to have been sorted out, and then this thing was an issue with his toe or whatever, but it was kind of instigated by somebody standing on it, I think, or a tackle, rather than just him just breaking down from an injury. But I mean, he's sort of minutes or whatever will have to be managed, but I think we can do that. I mean, we're playing a lot of games, but we've got quite a good squad now, and it was always a bit of concern, I think, because as much as some people do like the looks of Rocky, he's had those moments where he got roasted at Aberdeen, and if he really was that good, would Brendan not have given him more chances? What is it he doesn't fancy about him? Is he not quick enough? Does he not trust him? I don't know. So you've got all that type of stuff, and if the manager doesn't sort of trust him, it's better that he moves on and somebody else comes in, and you just deal with it, because it's probably a horses for courses thing. I mean, David Turnbull, you mentioned earlier, is a guy who would be pretty effective in a lot of teams and a lot of systems, but not particularly effective in terms of the way maybe that we want to play just now. And that it's just one of those things where Scales might need to just accept that in certain games, to play in the way we really want to play, with a high level pressing and all that type of stuff, that it might not suit him against teams who really can hurt us with the pace in behind, etc. there as well. What do you think about Taylor and Valley, though? I mean, obviously, moving on to the left-hand side, that's probably even more an interesting debate at the moment, isn't it?
It is, isn't it? Because I don't think anyone is clear on either one of them's long-term plans. Like, both of them short-term have got or immediate term, they're fine, right? But short-term, who really knows what's happening with either one of them? Taylor, it was great to hear Rodgers for the first time in a press conference, big Taylor up a bit and actually shed some sort of light on his feeling on Taylor and the club and all the rest of it, because he is, like I said, they were handing out contracts there, boom, 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 getting them dished out to all sorts, and not Taylor. So that's been a kind of elephant in the room, and it's now, it's now unavoidable at this stage where it's coming up, because once he gets to January, he's open to talk to clubs, and I don't know how many clubs will be genuinely interested in him just because of his age, really, as much as anything else, and where he could likely go. But Valley's not too dissimilar either, where there's a buyout clause there. He's just signed a new contract. There's rumours that, anyway, there's rumours. You can fill in the blank. There's been a few of them. I don't think there's much in them, but they're still there, And ultimately, it's not clear whether, number one, we will do the deal, or he wants to do it, or even, obviously, Barca don't really have a say because there's a minimum buy clause there. And yeah, even with Taylor's unknown contract situation, I find it really hard. I think Rodgers playing Taylor against Kilmarnock is a bit of a tell that he fancies him to be still a proper, could be best 11. And I think it is. Leipzig, it wasn't great, right? But it was decent enough, I thought, and I thought some of the shortcomings we normally see from him weren't as much as of a handicap or a hindrance as they have been before. Maybe that's not playing next to Scales, perhaps. in that case. Let me just go back and check the team so I'm not misremembering it. But
Trust.
Taylor, Trusty, Vickers. Yeah. So maybe that kind of has helped him a little bit. And I thought he played well against Leipzig. I think he got some shade his way after the match. I don't think the first 10, 15 minutes was particularly good for him. I do think he had a wee moment or two where you're like, oh, come on. I remember feeling nothing about him. But I ultimately remember finishing the match thinking Taylor definitely has earned another Champions League game in my eyes. Like, if he plays again, I won't be upset. He's not got to that point where he's definitely not of the level, and maybe the Valley kid is showing it. So I think like Taylor's still in at number one, I think, at the moment, but Valley will be used, when appropriate. Could see Taylor playing like one game a week when we get into this period,
Yeah. I think obviously when we think of the other side, Johnson and Ralston is just pretty much, okay, Ralston's playing for Scotland at the moment, but Johnson's clear number one, and it's not really a discussion point. It's like managing Johnson's minutes. As you said, what surprised me was obviously Valley starting the game against Aberdeen, and that does show that Brendan's got a lot of confidence and trust in him. But then Taylor's come back in and he started those other games. So, why is that? Is he just, think that Taylor's performed well, or, is he just intending that there's going to be some rotation there and they can both do a similar job? I think when maybe Valley, he's obviously pretty comfortable on the ball, but when guys come in, they do have to learn the way the team wants to play as well. So, you could still see a scenario where Valley actually ousts Greg Taylor on the basis that, if he gets a few games and he's really comfortable getting in and playing in that inverted position, as it's called, then he just, surpasses him. But I think the thing with Valley, that if you were given the option of signing both of them just now, you would sign Valley, but that's because he's a younger guy with more potential to develop, whereas Greg Taylor's kind of hit his level of ability, and you think, well, he's a consistent performer and he's served as well, but what we're looking at going forward. But for this big run of games coming up, you're going to see both of them playing, and I think that's really important for the team overall, because you want to keep up a level of intensity and play the way we've been playing. Start of the season, you cannot do that just rolling out the same team every 3 days. It's going to be like you're going to have to use the squad, manage minutes. Hopefully you get some good performances where you're a few up and it doesn't really jeopardise things. But we have seen games where Dundee at home didn't really start very well. Falkirk, we made changes, we were 2-1 down, we're about 25 minutes to go or whatever. So it doesn't always work out that you just put in guys and it just works as well as the first team type thing as well. But yeah, I mean, Greg Taylor's obviously, I think, the preferred choice at the moment, but who knows? Maybe they just didn't offer him a contract because last season, although he served us pretty well, it was just obvious that with Bernabei going out and everything, that there would be another left back coming in or whatever, and it's just, don't be in a rush to do that. Maybe he wants to be known as the sort of first choice left back, but I think there's going to be a lot of players there that are going to have to accept that there is no first choice at the moment, that you're going to have to come in and do your job when you're asked to do the job, and there'll be games you're going to have to sit out. That's just the nature of playing at a big successful club.
Yeah, I can certainly see that happening. There's some interesting points as well brought in about the chat in terms of the preference for Kelly. I just kind of felt that, it was kind of the best. That I definitely think the pitch familiarity maybe does come into maybe the lack of not wanting to play Valley on that surface. Yeah, it certainly could be factors I didn't really think about there. Strangely, the doctor's asking about the age profile of the squad. If you take out Kasper Schmeichel at 38 and McGregor at 31 out of the squad, basically nobody else is 30. Kyogo's 29, Dyson is 27, and then everyone else is basically 24 or younger for the most part. Alistair Johnston's maybe the outlier there. He's 26. But yeah, a lot of them are all kind of early mid-20s. Luke McKeown, 26 also. Hatate, 26. But yeah, Bernardo, 22. Even the Rocky, like you were mentioning the Rocky earlier on, and I thought it was quite an interesting point, right? Because he has given minutes to Palmer. He has Palmer. He has given minutes to Yang, So Brendan is definitely up for giving somebody an audition, and the Rocky hasn't got that, So I think you've kind of hit on something for me there a little bit where, he's probably done. But Odenholm is kind of come back in as well in one of the press conferences recently. Like you mentioned, he's had injured calves or something. Don't know if that's a real thing or just a just a story, just to stop people asking about him or whatever. But yeah, age profile overall is definitely on the young side. Like 2 players that are 30, basically. Everyone else is firmly in the 20s, which is good. But yeah, there's always Kieran Tierney rumours circulating whenever you talk left backs. I'm kind of seeing more posts about it again. It's just international break now. I think it's going to be a normal thing we see now until we sign a left back, probably, or until Tierney signs for someone else on a fresh deal. But yeah, I think the problem I've really got with left back ultimately is that like after this year, you've got no idea. We've got 2 finally. We've been crying out for a second because Taylor's been fine, but not the complete package. And we might finish the season with 0 because we might sell Bernabei as well, So we've not even got Bernabei coming back in January, mate. Imagine Bernabei comes back. Brendan says, "Shows what you've got, kiddo," and gives him a few games, and the wee man is everything that we're seeing in Brazil: assists, goals, bombing on from the back, as well as like tackles, interceptions out of his face. Could Bernabei? Can he do it on a Sunday afternoon in Ross County? Can he do it?
I don't think so. I mean, so think about how Celtic want to play this now, right? So you get Greg Taylor in, and really you want a situation where even if you get somebody who's better, Greg Taylor, you would want to have him there. So you want to get him to sign a new contract. So there's no point just leaving him out just now because that makes him disillusioned. So maybe you get Greg Taylor involved just now. You give him a wee run of games. You make sure he feels wanted. You get him signing a new deal. And then you turn your attention to what you're going to do for there. I've no doubt about it. I mean, Bernabei's been one of probably the best left back in the Brazilian league, but he's playing in a team with a different style, right? So the question is, does he suit what Brendan wants, and does he suit Celtic? So it's obvious that he's probably got some stuff to offer in terms of Celtic point of view, but is he actually better than Valley in terms of what we're doing? Valley's advantage over him is obviously come through Glenn Messiah and everything. He's more comfortable in the ball. I would have thought, can Bernabei play that position where he goes in and he plays inverted in midfield? Because I think what he's doing for international is he's bombing down the wing, and there's a guy there, Borry, in the middle, who's a pretty good player, and he's not crossing the ball into Furuhashi, right? He's crossing it into a guy who's a well-known bagger up there. So I don't know. I think that I would be more inclined, based on how it's worked out for Bernabei, to just take the cash and just let him move on. But if Brendan thinks that the qualities that he can provide would be an advantage to the team, then so be it. I don't have an issue with that, as long as he thinks that he can work with that and it can give us something that we can work with on the team. But we'll see. I mean, football's so fluid that we could end up next season, just with like two different people, or we could end up Greg Taylor still there and we're starting somebody else. But if we get Taylor tied down, and then the issue I think with Valley is, what will Barcelona think of it if he's just not playing at all? Is there any form of kind of cancellation of that loan? Would they maybe consider moving him to somebody else on the basis he's not playing? And I don't think that'll be a big issue, because there's going to be lots of games coming up soon. He's going to get game time, so we'll see how that goes. But I would hope that if Brendan really rates Valley, he can convince him, to sign. He can convince him that this is the place he wants to be, and that he's going to play a lot of games and he'll develop. And the good thing is we've got a good track record of developing and selling on young players now, and that will start sticking in people's minds. So it's okay. It's not so good that we're losing our Matt O'Reillys or we're losing our Jotas and things like that. But also people look at that and say, well, if I do well at Celtic and the big moves there, then that's going to be available. But also look at how well Celtic are doing at the top level in the Champions League. This is a great place to go. I can get good experience. I can win things. I can develop and everything. And that's really what's good about this overall strategy that we've actually stuck to, because the model has actually worked really well. And like, we're talking about 10 million euros for Bernabei. I mean, honestly, like, see, when he went and loaned international, if somebody had said they'd given us 10 Fredos for him, I think everybody would have been driving him to Brazil. We'd all been chipping in to actually get him away. Like, he was, like.
How surprised is that he's even their number one left back? That's just a big enough surprise by itself. Never mind the fact that there's Brazilian a Brazilian journalist didn't know he was Argentinian and said he should have been called into the
Joking, I
squad for Brazil.
know.
For Brazil. It's like, Jesus, man. But on
It's
there
crazy.
was something there I was going to take you on the Valley thing. If I remember rightly, Barca were kind of throwing everyone out at the end of the window for FFP stuff again because they've got too many players and all that stuff. So I don't think they want to take the wages back anytime soon. But
yeah,
you know, there's a reason they just gave him a new deal rather than just letting them burn out and fade away with them. You know, they obviously at least want to keep their hook in him a little bit, just in case at the very least. You know, so it's hard to get a gauge on it.
Do you know what as well? I get in that, Quinny, because I think that should really be a false rumor, right? Because what Celtic did was they paid like his wages to Barcelona up front or whatever. So surely then if he goes back in January, Barcelona would have to pay some of that money back or whatever. So because remember it was like seen as like a loan fee, but it was basically what was happening was Celtic were taking over his wages, which, you know, £30,000 a week is quite a high wage for Celtic, but you know that's important to get Barcelona get that off the wage bill because they get problems registering players and everything. So yeah, I don't see him going back to Barca in January, but I mean, I think what we really don't want to be is in a situation where we're getting held to ransom again, where we think that you know Valley's the guy who's going to be the future left back and everything. We've got a Nida situation, so if he does have like a contractual buyout clause over there that's not too bad or whatever, and we can go and get him if he wants to come, then that's great, obviously. So.
Yeah, it's certainly a nominal. It's like I remember like around the €4 million mark, give or take, either side of that. Certainly under 5, you know. I think the 4D chess move would be to sell Bernabei for $10 million or whatever it is we're trying to get, 10 million euros. I think it's dollars. We quoted them. Maybe it's euros. And then just phone up Barca, you know, and just take the cream off the top. That's what Celtic love to do, man. Bank that, you know. Go and
sign Lennon Miller.
Go and sign Lennon Miller. Yeah.
Lennon Miller.
Sell Bernabei. Get Miller and Valley. And
yeah.
that takes us on to the midfield very nicely. We mentioned Engels before, of course. We were talking about the Belgium squad. He's starting tonight. Italy are 1-0 up, believe it or not. Sandro Tonali in midfield popping up with a goal here. I'm sure we'll all be checking out what do you know? The formation's changed. The formation's changed to 5-3-2. Kind of right, I suppose, which is fun. But Lennon Miller getting linked into the midfield. Now, I don't think this midfield particularly needs Lennon Miller, if that makes sense. But we definitely need Lennon Miller because he will be brilliant. And although right now it's not like, he'll come in and he'll take that spot for certain, he's a player that very quickly will become best 11 quality, it seems. And as soon as anyone drops out or is moved on, you know, you've got your ready-made replacement there, which is a little bit of the business we've been doing when we had like Rogic, Moy, O'Reilly. They all kind of crossed over with each other really well, and our midfield depth was mad strong. We've got very good midfield depth at the moment, but at that time, you know, they were goals off the bench guaranteed. Whoever came off the bench in that time, you know, if Moy was coming on for O'Reilly or Rogic was coming off, or you know, whatever, you always just felt every one of them was capable of doing something, of winning a match. And Miller coming in could start games very easily, probably would. But again, thinking about this, he's not going to move right away. I think a lot of the chat you're seeing is loan back to Motherwell for end of season. So you're thinking maybe in the summer. So then, yeah, if somebody's moved out, then the spot's there to be won for him, I suppose, thinking it out fully.
Yeah. Sign him. I would go and sign him, honestly. I mean, he's an obvious talent. I guess the problem's going to be, you know, he's such an obvious talent that maybe he'll want some assurance that when he's coming that he's not going to be sitting on the bench with Celtic as well. But I would definitely sign him. If you look at McCowan as a signing, obviously it was £1 million, and I think he's added something when he's been coming on. Okay, maybe he's not good enough to like start a lot of the games, or he's not like shown that, you know, his form's better than the other guys to start a lot of the games, but he's still been a good addition to the squad. In terms of Lennon Miller, I just think Celtic need to obviously decide what their strategy is, right, overall. And we've scoured all corners of the continent. We've been to Argentina for Bernabei. We've been to the South Korea K-League. K-League 2, the second part of K-League, signing Kwon. We've signed Yang from Gangwon, who were bottom of the K-League 1. We've been to the Japanese J-League. So even somebody's there and they're hitting us in the face and they're performing well and they're a young guy like that and they're developing, there's nothing wrong with going and securing that signing. And if we go and sign him and we leave him at Motherwell and we say, look, you'll be coming in to fight for your place in the summer. But that's fine because football's really fluid. And when Matt O'Reilly started really go back to when he started playing really well, you just imagine that Matt O'Reilly is going to play for Celtic forever and he's going to score 20 goals every season, and it's everybody's dreams. But when the move came or whatever, he went. So before like Brighton or whatever sign Lennon Miller, let's just go and get him. And you never know. Like I love Rio Hatate and things, but he's starting to put like good performances on in the Champions League, etc. And somewhere along the line, somebody might just come and chuck a bid at us that really we can't turn down, or maybe he wants to take. So having a good bit of ongoing recruitment is important. Maybe Engels develops a lot, and maybe Engels is the one who goes for the next big fee. So let's actually have a bit of forward planning. I think that's what I'm trying to say. If we're being more proactive about it, where we're starting to secure these guys before we start selling other people, then that's a really good model. And so Odenholm popping up there, who knows what's happening? Maybe it's just been injury stuff. That happens, but it seems to have kind of blighted his career so far. Maybe just let him go in January and go and loan to somebody and get somebody that's willing to give him games or whatever, because I don't think he's going to feature under the current sort of midfield sort of setup that we've got with so many different options. But
a second half of the season alone would definitely do him the world of good, Odenholm, Don't think we're really missing him. I think on the whole Lennon Miller and the midfield thing, see when I look at this screen here, McGregor not leaving, McKeown not leaving, Bernardo, I don't think he's leaving anytime soon either. Forrest, of course, we kind of discount him from this conversation at this point. Engels, certainly not leaving in January or this summer. I could almost guarantee that. I think at this point, you're going to have him next year, I think. Hatate, a different matter though. I don't know if I could see him going in January. It wouldn't be the wildest thing that's ever happened at Celtic, of course. Crazier things have happened, but don't see it without the Champions League campaign being completed. But thereafter, like, he will then be touching on 27, if not there already. And if he's had a good Champions League campaign, I could see him just being kind of the way it got with like Edouard and Ayer. It came a point where they were like, right, I'm taking a step. I'm going to go somewhere to get different minutes. Odenholm, of course, we just touched on there, and Turley coming through the B team is definitely one for the watching. By the way, Turley's like, if Turley was getting games from Motherwell, he might look good. He's got a wee bit about him. He's not just like an athlete, which you find a lot of age group. There's a lot of guys that get into like strong teams because they're really fast, really strong, and they're decent enough, kind of thing. Whereas that Turley is like, he's got a touch, he's got a good eye for it. From what I've seen, certainly anyway. But I think like the main body of that midfield is here for the foreseeable. So yeah, as soon as one of somebody leaves next, and there's a big space for Miller, and that's probably the main concern with him is like, will I get minutes? And I think as soon as probably Hatate moves on in the summer, you would imagine on the grand scheme of things, then it makes that a lot easier. So signing him in January, loaning him back to Motherwell, and bringing him in the summer is a no-brainer, really. Even if none of these guys leave, you've then got a bit of a problem on your hands, perhaps, in guaranteed minutes and stuff like that. But really, in the grand scheme of things, like if McKeown or Bernardo ended up just not featuring anymore, to get half bombed out for someone like Lennon Miller, the team's only getting stronger for it.
Yeah, you want competition for places as well. So I mean, obviously, Paulo Bernardo's pretty interesting as well. Portuguese under-21 captain, didn't really have a good track record in terms of getting games for Benfica or anything. So he came to Celtic, first and foremost, probably to, get more games and things. And obviously he's enjoyed it, and he, seems to be sort of improving as far as I can see as well. He's not getting consistent games week in, week out, all that type of stuff, but he's different types of players in there. I mean, I think Lennon Miller would give you that option of coming in for Hatate, because I think he's not a typical Scottish player. I don't know if that's a good or a bad word, but he seems to be more of a technical type player, if that makes sense, not the type that we often sort of develop. So he's a really interesting one. So yeah, I mean, if he's minded to do that, he's minded to come to Celtic, then all well and good. If he's not, if he just says, I'm not interested in that, I just want to go abroad, I want to go and play in Italy, I want to go and develop my career, I don't want to go to a Celtic or a Rangers, I'm not interested in that, well, fine, that's the way it is. You'll go on to have a good career, I think, either way. So, but if there's a deal to be done there, I would like us to be proactive about it, because we now have the money to, we don't need to mess about. We can put the money down and say, right, there you go, Motherwell, we'll pay you, and you can get the benefit of keeping him for the rest of the season, and you can sell it to the guy a wee bit and just say, look, we do usually sell a big player every year or two, so there's a path there for you. You might come in and you might not be number one and playing every week straight away, but one of these guys likely is going to move on at some point, and that's your pathway into the team to play Champions League football. And yes,
yep.
like that sounds pretty good. I'm selling it to myself here. Let's just sign him. But we've seen loads of frustrating points where we never got like John McGinn and everything, and these guys go on to have good careers and playing English Premier League teams and everything. Everybody could see John McGinn was a good player. He was always brilliant against Celtic for Hibs and everything, always gave us loads of problems. So it's just the same thing, let's not be daft about it. If a deal's out to be done, go and get it done.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the McGinn reference, I actually never touched on this. I did put the comment on screen, but I do think the ultimate move at left back, and maybe in the future, like in a few seasons, maybe centre mid as well, is bringing these guys in like Robertson and McGinn, because that's just always going to help your team move on when you're competing in the Champions League, having guys that have been around the block once or twice at the elite level. Robertson obviously is a Champions League winner, Premier League winner. McGinn maybe not quite there yet, but or say yet, who knows, but but yeah, no, I'm all about that kind of stuff, getting the best Scottish players in. And I do agree with Walker here that he's not a 10, Miller, but I do think that he's like a proper 8. Like, I think he's a very advanced player. I think he's a forward-thinking player, and I don't think he's not going to be shy in going box to box. He's not going to be shy getting into the box on the end of something, I don't think. And we've seen what he can do in and around the box anyway against us, and the highlight packages always pop up after every one of his matches, So, yeah, I think it's an absolute no-brainer. But the midfield has developed a bit over this season. We started off the year kind of as we finished it last year. And then with O'Reilly out, Engels in, there was definitely like that honeymoon period. We've seen the scores. We've already looked at them for a few of the players already, where we were hitting our groove. Engels, debuted off the bench against them in the derby and, did very well off the bat. Bratislava was brilliant. Dortmund was the kind of crash back to reality, as it were. But the midfield has changed actually quite a bit, over the last like 3 or 4 games. We're seeing McGregor actually get forward a lot more, which sounds crazy because he actually started the season really good, scoring like 3 games in a row or something mad, which was like his best scoring whenever, got his first ever Player of the Month award or whatever. But there's definitely been a much more of an evolution where he's actually been allowed to run and like penetrate through the centre more in midfield compared to normally what he was doing last year, and what he has been doing for the last couple of years is just sitting in the middle of the web and moving the ball around for the majority of the time. He's now got much more onus to go forward, and that's allowed Engels to be the different player to O'Reilly that he is, and the strengths that you're seeing from him is probably what's got him in that Belgium team and that kind of system, where he plays both sides of the game really well. He's quite physical. He's got a good touch for a pass, and technically, like, he takes set pieces for us. So, he's definitely a good striker of the ball, as it were.
Yeah, I think it stood out in the Aberdeen game as well. I think the sort of the Engels moment where he ran back and he covered, and then he was sort of lung bursting to get up the pitch again. So, but maybe it's just because like McGregor can do that because he knows he's got somebody in there who can come back and cover for him. Because that was pretty obvious that we were, even with Matt O'Reilly as well. He wasn't a guy who was that sort of athletic. He was good on the ball. He was good at intercepting. He was composed. He had delivery quality, all that type of stuff. But sometimes the midfield did look a wee bit sort of flat-footed, if that makes sense. You look at it's Atlanta's midfield and look at the boy in Ederson. Everybody all wants him. He's good at every different part of the game. He's not like a huge standout in one single area. He's just really good at everything, and that's sign a real sort of top player. So I think Engels has brought a sort of style that Rodgers has wanted to sort of bring in terms of how we play, and you've seen improvement there. I mean, if you just leave all that aside, just look at the results we're actually getting. I mean, Aberdeen have had a brilliant start to the season, but Celtic's goal difference is like plus 29 or something after how many 10 or 11 games. So, we're scoring goals. We've tightened up a bit at the back. We're getting results in Europe. We're in a cup final. The proof's in the pudding, as they say. And obviously we're going to go on to talk about the forward line, and like Nicholas Kuhn's been just like has been outrageous. And what's been really impressive about him is not just the numbers he's put up. I always just think about that performance he put in against Atalanta as well, because so we'll digress into Sorare, right? So like I've got a Real Madrid stack and everybody's slagging off Mbappe, and Real Madrid have got a problem because they don't seem to have a good team balance. So brought in Mbappe, he kind of plays the same position as Vinicius Junior, and they kind of get the team right. Now, if you bring that back to Celtic, how is that relevant to Celtic? But Nicholas Kuhn's not just scoring goals and getting assists. He's doing a shift, come back the other way. So he's working for Alistair Johnson. So Johnson's running forward to give him overlaps or create space or create a relationship with him. And Kuhn's running back that way and doing a bit of the Maeda role in terms of protecting. And that's why we're such a good team, because we're pressing, we've got a unit. And, that's why everybody's like, how come Real Madrid are not world beaters? Because you don't just buy loads of players and lump them in together and they don't become a good team. That's not the way it works type thing. So that's been the biggest impressive thing I think about the forward line, because Furuhashi, I don't think he scored against Leipzig either, but I mean he was integral in that kind of we're hunting them down, like leading the press type thing as well. Worked so hard, come off at like 60 or 70, he looked knackered, but he put in a shift, and nobody was talking about he's not scored a hat trick tonight or whatever. Like that wasn't all what it was about in that game. So kind
of moves us on to the forward quite nicely, McBride. Love that. Seasoned veteran you are nowadays, eh?
Well, he gave me notes tonight, so we didn't turn up. We're running a professional show tonight. That's it.
That's it. This is Kyogo's Tale of the Tape. I expected him to be on a bit more fire than that this season, to be honest with you. Like, I don't think he's really been the free slow. Like if he got 30 goals this year, I'd be probably quite surprised at this stage. I don't think he's going to hit big numbers. It's just been weird for him. Like, he's looked good enough. He's had certainly enough opportunities. We spoke last week about how many big chances he's missed, of course. He's definitely had opportunities, but yeah, the wee man's and again, I think that's what puts a bit more focus and a bit more pressure on Kuhn, is like he's been the one delivering a lot of this stuff. We've not had much out of Kyogo. Maeda's been good this year, like his numbers have been fine, but you can't go into a game relying on Maeda. It's just not that. We've just not got that relationship with that guy. We should turn up into that game and go, Maeda's going to do it today. Like.
I know,
but
we're sharing it about. We're sharing it about. I mean, I think the point with that is that, like in the games where like maybe Furuhashi's not scoring, we still beat Leipzig. We still scored 3 goals. Hatate scored. Kuhn scored 2 goals. Like if you share it about, then that's a good thing, right? Nicholas Kuhn's been the most reliable, obviously, of the forward line, because he's been really just uber consistent when he's been playing. The only games he's not been like getting goals and assists are when he's not playing, basically. So that he's good for some sort of contribution. And Furuhashi, I do think sometimes that he's a wee bit isolated in terms of the system, where teams sit in a bit and it doesn't suit him as much. But he's also missed a lot of chances as well. It could well hit one of those spells though, where he just goes on a run, because the way we're playing will create plenty of chances for him. And I think he's a real confidence guy as well. He's a shy guy. He's quite a sort of reserved guy. He works hard. He's quite humble and things. He's not a big head, so he's not a guy that's just walking about saying I'm the best player in the world. He kind of needs to get those goals, needs to get that confidence. So I could see him going on a run. I agree with you. I don't think he'll put in huge numbers, but again, that's also because there'll be a lot of away games where, as long as Ida's nose isn't broken, then he's probably gonna start some of those games purely just for tactical reasons. Probably not based in performance, because I thought he was honking the last game, but that's a point. So
I was thinking the other day. I think with Kyogo as well, I only noticed this because of one of the comments we got earlier in the live chat. Again, fist bump to all the contributors we've got in there, asking about the age profile. But Kyogo's 29. Like this should be like peak powers. This is prime of your career, wee man. And although he's at a great club doing great things, Mikey Johnson's just registered an assist for Ireland against Finland. Notifications are flying off. Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like, well, again, as soon as he clicks in and gets on a wee scoring one, like you say, if that happens, then that'll just propel us even higher, surely, because we're doing pretty well without his goals so far. Mai did the same. Like, Mehdi's had a good year, and I'm sure he'll continue to have a good year and put in some good numbers to back it up. And yeah, like I said in the title for the video, like I had to rename it. I ended up using Engels and Scales in since we were coming on live when the international games were on. But we wanted to have a wee chat on the squad progression and really how good can it get, because there's minor negatives, I think, in every position. Or not negatives, but talking points in every area of the pitch. What the best one is, there's some bumps in the road to overcome, or there has been so far this year. But we are like, you can't even think about the results we've had being better. Really, like 4 Champions League games played, 2 wins, a draw, and a loss. Take that all day. And in the league, drawing 1 game, winning every other match, including the derby. Cup, smashing the team 6-0 in the semi. Like, you cannot really ask for much more. But when you look at the team, there is more there to come somehow.
I think the one thing I would ask for more, and I highlighted this before, was remember that goal we scored against Rangers that get chopped off? So it was a counter-attack. Nicholas Kuhn's running down, he plays it across, Furuhashi put the ball in. By the time it got into the net, I was in my kitchen because I'd started running with them. It was like the cavalry charge up the pitch. He was like, yes. So like that's the only thing I would ask for, if we could get one back on side. But yeah, I mean that those are the margins, like in terms of football and everything now. And I think there's more to come from Furuhashi. Honestly, I do. I'm not saying like he just sometimes strikers go through spells where they don't do that well. I mean, Erling Haaland's missed probably more big chances than Furuhashi has in the last 3 or 4 games. But before that, he was scoring world record amount of hat tricks, and everybody was captaining him FPL, and he was best thing since sliced bread and all that type of stuff. So it's just, it can go like that. But I think that, Furuhashi can be a bit frustrating because he scores those great goals, like the goals against Rangers, and then, he misses some of the easy chances or whatever. So, but there's going to be plenty of chances for him coming up. Loads of exciting games. Obviously after the break, we'll probably come back to again sort of next week. But, we've got Hearts away game Saturday night, and then we've got Bruges in Champions League. So it's right back into like brilliant fixtures. It's Aberdeen that midweek as well. It's just the schedule's just going to be right on us, and it's going to be a sort of festival of football all the way through Christmas, and 2 Champions League games in January as well coming up, which could be really crucial for maybe not even, dare I say, qualification. Let's not get ahead of ourselves, but what about qualification maybe for the top 8? Like, it's not out of the question that if we keep this form up, that we might be sort of pushing for higher up parts of the Champions League. Is that a thing, the Champions League? I just made that up.
We're playing Dundee back-to-back around those games as well. That's funny, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Well, I think Dundee was one of the games that's supposed to be 14th of December, and then it's been moved because Celtic play Rangers on the 15th for the final of the League Cup. Yeah. So, you've got a couple of those games have been moved back for the Cup semi, and then and it shows how sort of congested the calendar is. I mean, the Champions League format I really like. I think a lot of people really like it. But it's added a couple of games in as well, and that's all putting a bit of pressure on the system. I mean, we're sitting tonight and it's the 3rd international break of the season already, and you're just like honestly, like I think the EPL, for example, played like 10 games and there's been 3 international breaks. So is this all really that necessary? But then it's just all a sort of money making thing, but I can't wait, honestly. I'm just like I know we're playing really well and everything, but I'm excited for this phase because there's nothing better than watching the famous Glasgow Celtic. So
yeah, it's been pretty sweet. And the fixture list is so tasty after this, because there's not another international break for ages, thankfully. There's no winter break either. So it is just like Brendan Rodgers called it, the ultra marathon, but like it's wall-to-wall good football matches at Tynecastle, Bruges in the Champions League, at Pittodrie, Hibs at home, away to Zagreb, the derby final, in the middle of December there. And then it's the festive period over, Boxing Days and all the rest of it, derby on the New Year. And then the final stage of the Champions League, that doubleheader against Dundee, which is quite eye-catching just because of the way it sits. on the screen. But yeah, like what a period this is going to be. This is, this is how it feels to be Celtic, as I like to say.
Yeah, I like those Saturday night games as well. I love those. Honestly, I've already got my in that Hearts game, and I'm thinking, how many pints deep am I going to be by 7:45 that night? I was just like, I'm going to be at least like 4 or 5 pints deep, and I'm gonna enjoy that night. But it's honestly, it's a brilliant calendar, and it's quite nice. Like, because sometimes you look at Champions League games, and maybe there's a bit of trepidation and everything there as well. So previous seasons we're going, oh, we're playing Real Madrid or we're playing PSG or whatever, and maybe we're going to get roasted. But like looking at forward to it, like playing well, getting good results. In the last 3 home games we've won. So we beat Feyenoord, we beat Bratislava, and we've beat Leipzig. So now we're looking at Bruges, and we're want to go and get a result and everything. It's a brilliant feeling to get that back again. So
see what I want to just the feeling I've just got brewing around me right now, looking at the fixture list and chatting with you now about it all, is how good is it going to be beating them on the 15th and then beating them on the 2nd of January? And at that point, the meltdown could be of epic proportions, could be right up there with some of the best ones we've seen, because who knows what they'll be up to as well in the middle of all that. Never mind, they probably won't turn up at Hampden the way things are going. Let's call a spade a spade. You know what I mean? When you see it, when you imagine if they didn't do walking away, they didn't do, but they don't do not showing up. Wouldn't be surprised. And yeah, the game on the 2nd, is that home or away? Actually, I never clocked. It's probably away, isn't it?
Ibrox. I think 2nd's at Ibrox. Again, that's like, it's over that kind of Christmas period. It's like 2nd, and you think, but it's like a Thursday or something at 3 o'clock, and you're just like, like I've another couple of pints deep at that point. Like it's like at that point during Christmas, New Year, where you just don't know what day of the week it is. Like, I'm having another beer, that type of thing. But yeah, I love it. I mean, I love the kind of Christmas period in general, just out with football and stuff. But it feels like in the UK we kind of properly celebrate it, and the players maybe don't like it so much for the intensive period. But you've got like a English Premier League game on like every day through Christmas. You've got all the Celtic games. You've got the New Year fixture and everything for Celtic Rangers. So that's going to be amazing. Can't wait.
Yeah. So I was just like, imagine they don't really show up too much at Hampden, right? Because I've kind of got form for that at the moment, and let's see how they're going. But again, there'll be like no away fans at this game either. So if we like hit them hard quite quickly, we could be sending a lot of them home early as well, which would just be scenes. Would just be a peak banter years. So yeah, sorry, I'll stop now, Michelle. I'll stop.
Don't jinx it. I know.
But I don't think I've got jinxing abilities. I don't think I've got that in me, to be honest with you. I'm a good luck charm, if anything. I like to think, So yeah, I think I'm really happy with the progression we've seen overall. Like the main thing that really does bring it home and give you something to really like put it up against is the results in Europe. Like the draw. Honestly, like I couldn't get this across well enough when I was speaking to somebody the other day, but Celtic not only getting a point away in the Champions League against a pot one team, which the Europa League winner is, but to get a clean sheet in Italy away from home in the Champions League, Celtic in Italy, actually coming away with something for once is huge for me. I don't know the amount of times I've seen us playing Milan or Juve or somebody like that and getting ripped off or just getting spanked sometimes or whatever. And a clean sheet, not even conceding. Not even got it was a 1-1 draw and we got a penalty or something spawning like that. It was a draw. It wasn't anything great, but clean sheet's a huge thing, I think. And then obviously beating Leipzig, getting back to that vintage years of Fortress Paradise again, and that's the progression that we want. Trebles and invincible trebles and all that stuff. We'll obviously take it with both hands. You love it and everything else, but it's not really progression.
Yeah, we look like a Champions League team. So that's what we were talking about last season. We were talking about how it was still pretty pathetic in Europe and all that sort of stuff. And whereas now you've seen maybe also because the manager's been able to put his stamp on bringing players in, because how many times did we talk about recruitment? But we've managed to obviously do it in a way that suits the way he wants to play, and he seems quite happy to bring these guys in and to work with them. And I know that's the remit of any manager, but although he's called things out from time to time, firstly he's called things out and then we've delivered, and also he's been really happy to work with that sort of system and understand that, you know, Matt O'Reilly's going to leave or whatever, but we're going to bring in other guys, and, you know, he gets to choose those guys, and he's still got money to spend. So it's a great time to be a Celtic fan. We've got loads of success. We've got loads of money in the bank. We're getting more money in the bank because every time we've got one of those Champions League nights we win, there's another sort of €2 million or whatever for it. It looks as if, we hope, touch wood, that we keep these results up. You know, you're going to have at least 2 games after Christmas, but probably you're going to have 4 games after Christmas. So that's more money coming in. Yeah. And we're looking forward, and we're talking about progressive signings and everything. So yeah, it's great. I can't wait. This international break's rubbish. And when's it next week? I just want to just watch Celtic Hearts. But it's great to look forward to. It's amazing.
Yeah, I can't wait. It's been an absolute pleasure, McBride. Thanks for coming on with me tonight, as usual. Always. It's been a joy. Quinny should try and get an interview with the new head of operations. Oh, by the way, that's an idea. I'm not really the man to do that, but I'll definitely pass that suggestion along the chain of command, as it were. Let's see how it shakes out. But yeah, the thing is with that stuff, I love the idea of it, right? But I genuinely don't know, like, when you would be face to face with somebody, what you would ask them. If you get me, as much as I could probably sit and talk to them, like, generally about this stuff for ages, is like, if you had an interview scheduled, you know, what questions do you actually ask people, you know, kind of thing is maybe not a natural thing for me, rather than just chatting or giving suggestions or hearing ideas or whatever. But yeah, I love that, mate. Thanks a lot for the suggestion. Again, thanks to everyone that's joined us in the live chat. Fist bumps to everyone that's watched us live or after we've been live as well. Before we came on, we were 23 subscribers away from 10k. I don't know where we're at the moment. If any of you haven't subscribed already, please do hit the subscribe button. It really means a lot. Supports the channel, helps us do more and more and grow. But we're only 22 away now, so we've gained one. So we're 22 away. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please do. And yeah, thanks again to everyone that's joined in the show and the live chat and all the rest of it. Hail, and we'll be back next week to preview Hearts. Don't worry, McBride. Click your fingers and click your heels together, and before you know it, we'll be back next week doing this again.
Beer.